Developing now at 9, a suspect is on the run after police say 2 people were shot at a track station. Details straight ahead.
We're learning more about a controversial demolition in Salt Lake City. I speak to someone who was looking to buy the place before it was starting to be torn down.
The family of a hospital patient who allegedly stole a car and dragged a security officer is speaking out. Why they're pushing for more mental health awareness.
It is warm and windy here across the state today. Another day in the 70s, but we are cooling down as a storm approaches for this weekend, where we'll see rain and snow coming up.
The cherry trees on the Capitol grounds nearing peak bloom, but that could be cut short. I'll let you know why coming up.
After 45 days in both the hospital and a rehab facility, a Utah Highway Patrol trooper injured in a fall from an overpass back in February is now back home.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Bob Evans. Kelly is off tonight. Police are searching right now for a suspect after 2 men were shot at the Meadowbrook track station in South Salt Lake. UTA police say 3 men were involved in an altercation on the tracks this evening when a gun was pulled and 2 of the men were shot. One is in serious condition, the other is critical.
Still interviewing some witnesses and still talking to some people and trying to find out. We're very, very grateful, obviously, that nobody else was involved and nobody else was injured in this.
The affected track stations reopened just moments ago after a 4-hour closure between Mill Creek and Murray North stations this afternoon. We continue to follow the story of the controversial demolition of a historic church in downtown Salt Lake over Easter weekend. Tonight, Fox 13 News reporter Maithili Gubi spoke to someone who was actually hoping to buy the building.
We had plans to meet with an architect this past week, literally yesterday, to go over plans and how we wanted to construct the building.
Jacob Buck and his business partner are creating Third Space SLC, which would be a queer-centric event space. And they wanted to do it here at the old 5th Ward Meeting House in downtown Salt Lake City.
So we wanted to use kind of the essence of the building. The purpose of the building when it was first created was a meeting house. So we wanted to still have that flair of like community members being able to host, promote, and inform the community of what they're doing.
For the past few months, they say they have been working with the developer TAG SLC and the Greenery District to purchase the building.
All the wiring has been stripped from the building. The plumbing was pretty bad. There's holes in the floors. So we knew it was going to be a rather large $1 million to $2 million renovation of a building. But we were ready for the task. We were excited. We knew that we had the community support. We've been working with the redevelopment agency of Salt Lake.
But on Easter Sunday, Jacob was driving by and watched this historic building being torn down.
Distraught, a little bit devastated. Not only was it exciting for us and our plans, but it's been a large space for other people, like throughout history. Because it's over 100 years old, it's been a lot of different things, and they've been able to create special moments for people.
The city issued a stop work order when they found out about the demolition, saying they had not issued the permits to tear down a protected building. Officials say they're working on taking action to prevent these situations from happening again.
I think the community has rallied enough to where this building will be taken care of.
As for Jacob's dreams, he still hopes to bring Third Space to life and help revitalize the area.
So there is potential for us to find another space. You know, the Third Space could be anywhere, but we'd love to continue to pursue this space.
Salt Lake City Council has scheduled a public hearing about the demolition on April 16th. I reached out to the developer listed on property records, Jordan Atkin with TAG SLC, and he did not comment. In Salt Lake City, I am Maithili Gubi, Fox 13 News, Utah.
This was day 4 of jury selection in the murder trial of Chad Daybell. 52 jurors have been put in the jury pool. The court only needs 50 potential jurors. Now the defense and prosecution will narrow that group down to 18. 12 jurors and 6 alternates. Opening statements will take place in the coming days. Daybell is charged in the deaths of his first wife and his second wife's 2 children. Fox 13 News was briefed today by the Drug Enforcement Agency on the latest trends in the fentanyl crisis here in Utah. Utah is at the crossroads of I-15, I-70, and I-80. The DEA says it's the most heavily used north-south drug corridor in the western U.S. We're directly connected to the southwest border and not too far from Canada. The fentanyl drug crisis in Utah mirrors the national trends. It does not matter who uses the drug in Utah's rural or urban communities. One alarming point we learned about today was a certain tranquilizer being mixed in with fentanyl called xylazine.
If somebody were to ingest fentanyl, but it's been laced with xylazine, or xylazine's been added to it, and they overdose, and they're lucky enough to have a Narcan or a naloxone kit available to them for somebody to administer, the xylazine in that system will not react to the naloxone. So what does that mean? Ultimately, it means probably a more lethal dose of fentanyl, more overdose deaths, and a lack of resuscitation.
The DEA urges parents to talk to their children about the dangers of fentanyl. They say it's only a matter of time before they run into it at school. They also warn you to never take a pill that was not directly prescribed to you, because you can't tell the difference between something that is legitimate or not. A South Jordan family is pushing for more mental health awareness after their son and brother ran out of a health facility, allegedly stole a car, and dragged a security officer who was trying to stop him. The family tells Fox 13 News reporter Darian DeBrule they're devastated by what happened as they tried to get help for their son.
Inside Mary Meyer's living room lies a box of Kleenex, something both she and her son Drake needed as they emotionally reflected on what happened last weekend.
It was kind of just like a light switch where everything was fine. I was working with them Thursday and Friday, and then Saturday all this kind of unfolded.
The Meyers say on Saturday their brother and son Devin started experiencing symptoms of psychosis. They say a crisis team came to Devin's home and his family took him to the hospital. Drake says Devin was given a pink slip by the crisis team, a document specifying he should be held. But then he was allowed to go home.
I stayed up 9 hours straight with him throughout the night because it wasn't getting better.
Sunday, the Meyers say they checked Devin into the University of Utah South Jordan Health Center.
He was just in the room by himself. At one point he tried to get up and I stopped him from leaving, like calming down. And then I stepped outside the room to speak with the caseworker and the emergency room doctor. And when I stepped outside of the room, that's when he got up and started running.
Sunday afternoon, court documents say after running out of the hospital, Devin allegedly carjacked a truck. A hospital security guard trying to stop Devin ended up being dragged and seriously injured. Court documents say the passenger in the back seat of the truck was able to get the truck to stop, but it crashed into another vehicle. Devin faces multiple charges, including aggravated robbery, aggravated kidnapping, and aggravated assault. Devin's family says they feel like the hospital system failed him.
We kept pushing for him to be sedated or to be admitted to the mental hospital, and there just didn't seem to be a rush to do any of that. He had even pulled off all of his monitors, and they didn't come in and help us with that.
Fox 13 News reached out to U of U Health for a statement. In an email, they said they are unable to comment on issues involving patient care.
I feel like they didn't do anything to protect Devin. He was definitely in a really, really bad state, and there should have been more that was done.
As Devin's family works through their new reality, they're pleading for more mental health awareness and resources in hospitals.
We didn't know what to do either. So if they could have a crisis team available, I think that would be a great thing.
They're also calling the security officer and others who tried to help heroes.
Thank God for the security guard doing his thing and going above and beyond, like to try to save not just Devin, but everyone that, it could have been way worse.
As far as a security officer, last time we spoke with the South Jordan Police, they told us that he was in intensive care sedated with a breathing and chest tube. In South Jordan, Darian DeBrule, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Salt Lake International Airport has been busy lately. A lot of people are heading out of town for the total solar eclipse on Monday. Add to that spring break travel. Utahns both leaving and returning right now. Here's another thing to put into perspective. Last Friday was the second busiest day ever at the airport, with more than 36,000 passengers passing through the front doors prior to Easter. It was only 7 passengers short of the record, which was President's Day last year, which fell on NBA All-Star Weekend. We've had some windy weather out there today, Allison, as we get ready for those temperatures to take a nosedive.
That's right. So that wind out of the south today allowed our temperatures to rise to 73 degrees here in Salt Lake, our warmest temperature so far this year, and our second day in a row in the 70s. So we're going to have temperatures that are much cooler for this weekend as a cold front does arrive. But as we look at the high temperatures today, 74 in Provo, 71 for Ogden, near 70 for the Cache Valley, 71 for Vernal, upper 60s for Price, and 77 degrees in St. George. It is still really windy for some areas. We have seen some calmer conditions here along the Wasatch Front over the last few hours, but it's still really strong right now into Nevada. 41 miles per hour for Ely, 31 miles per hour for Bryce Canyon, and 39 miles per hour down towards Cedar. Now through midnight tonight, we'll continue with the wind advisories for western Utah. For tomorrow, starting at 10 a.m., we'll have the wind advisories picking up for south central Utah. High wind watches in effect for eastern Utah. And as we look at satellite and radar here across the state, a lot of rain and snow into Nevada. That arrives tomorrow for us here in Utah. What to expect through the weekend coming up.
A Utah Highway Patrol trooper injured in a fall from an overpass back in February is now back home. Tonight, we hear from him about his recovery.
A man was changing a tire on the side of the highway early this morning when he was hit and killed. How the accident happened and how you can avoid putting your safety at risk while trying to get back on the road.
The state is trying to tackle the problem of the invasive species Phragmites.
Something special that was hidden in the walls 90 years ago of this Springvale home has brought one 100-year-old woman back to her childhood house.
The Oakland A's are not coming to Salt Lake City. I'll tell you where they're headed and what this means for Big League Utah coming up.
A Utah Highway Patrol trooper who fell from an overpass in February while deploying spike strips during a police chase is now back home. I'm Fox 13 News reporter Chris Arnold. It was just last month that I spoke with UHP trooper Steve Odie Meyer shortly after he was moved to a rehab facility in Murray. And just 3 weeks later, he's now continuing his recovery from his home in Erta.
It's just a big relief to be here.
Back home and on the mend.
I had a ramp in my garage so I could hop in the house, and then we've moved furniture around because the wheelchair won't fit through places. And little tasks like washing your hands and brushing your teeth and getting into bed is a different thing.
Adjustments Utah Highway Patrol trooper Steve Meyer is having to make.
It just seems like it happened a couple of days ago.
Trooper Meyer is referring to February 13th when he deployed spike strips here on an overpass at 7200 West near I-80 to stop an SUV that was fleeing from police. As that SUV swerved around spike strips in the northbound lane, Trooper Meyer says he moved to not get hit.
That's pretty much the last thing I remember. I'm assuming that I had probably about a 2.5 foot barrier there. Even though I thought I was off of the structure, I wasn't quite. I was right on the edge of it. And that step back tripped me and I just went over backwards.
He says he fell 33 feet to the ground, landing on his left side.
The DPS guys, between the helicopter pilot and our assistant in the back, were able to they just made a decision to load me and go. And that's what saved my life, really.
Trooper Meyer sustaining a slew of injuries in the fall.
I got 15 fractures in my pelvis,
including to his heart.
It slid basically outside of the sack and under my armpit.
After spending time in the hospital and at a rehab facility in Murray, where Fox 13 News spoke to him last month, he was able to return home.
Do you feel like it's a miracle that you're here today?
Oh, 100% miracle. several miracles have happened.
Through it all, he's had support from near and far, from complete strangers in Oregon sending him a blanket, to his family and fellow UHP troopers.
Steve's supposed to be here for a reason. We're just grateful for that. We really look forward to his progress.
Family is number one, and I can't say enough about my wife. My son was there every day checking on me, so what a miracle.
While Trooper Meyer was in a wheelchair on Thursday, he did say that there's a good probability that he will be able to walk again. Just more good news in a miraculous recovery that he hopes will help achieve his goal of eventually returning to work. Here in Murray, Chris Arnold, Fox 13 News, Utah.
And Trooper Meyer, you are still in our prayers. This is all that's left of a detached garage in Park City after it fell off the side of a cliff last night. Park City Fire District says multiple crews were sent to the Summit Park neighborhood after receiving a call at about 9:30. The owner heard cracking noises before watching the structure go over the edge. No homes are at the bottom of the hill and only trees were damaged.
My guess is it got weakened from last winter. From that huge snow load, we saw quite a bit of structure collapse, similar in nature, outbuildings, detached garages.
He adds, we should all make sure to inspect our outbuildings, look for any sagging, and listen for what he calls crack pops. We have some really good news about Utah's water situation. Right now, Utah is 132% of normal, which is fantastic. The Natural Resources Conservation Service says soil moisture is good. That means the water is going into streams and reservoirs and not just into the soil. Reservoirs are averaging about 78% of capacity right now, but that's because water managers are making room for spring runoff. The Great Salt Lake could rise another 1.5 feet as a result of all this water. I tell you what, Allison, it's all good news.
Yeah, we're cooling down this weekend though, so hopefully you enjoyed the 70s while we had it. Right now in Salt Lake, it's still rather mild, 66 degrees currently. 62 right now for Ogden, and for Provo, 64 degrees. Now, our wind was quite gusty today. We saw wind gusts 30 to 40, maybe even 50 plus miles per hour, depending on where you were today. We certainly saw some of that for the West Desert. Temps right now getting ready for bed, 50s and 60s here across the state. We're going to see a cold front moving through tomorrow. The core of our storm system for this weekend moves through on Saturday. Behind that, a northwest flow, and that is likely when we're going to see our best chances for slushy roads and travel impacts. For tomorrow, we're going to see a little burst of precipitation as our cold front moves through midday, but we are likely going to see more accumulating snowfall, especially for the mountains, once we head into that northwest flow on Saturday for the mountains across northern Utah. Precip chances going up here along the Wasatch Front tomorrow, but if you take a look at your screen, it's not that good of a chance, but we're going to see those possibilities from about noon through 5 p.m. tomorrow, where we're looking at scattered to maybe even numerous showers here along the Wasatch Front midday. We're looking at valley rain, mountain snow, but we could see some snow mixing into the valleys at times, depending on the intensity of that precipitation and also how quickly our temperatures drop behind our cold front tomorrow. And then when we head into Friday night, Saturday morning, we're going to have that chance for some slushy conditions here along the Wasatch Front as we cool down. For tonight, not too bad though. You wake up, temperatures tomorrow morning in the mid-50s, and that is basically going to be our high tomorrow. Mid-50s, and then we're going to be cooling down midday. We look at overnight temps right around 45 to 50 for many of you Friday morning at 7 a.m. And then for the Wasatch Front tomorrow, still breezy, chances for rain starting midday through the afternoon. But notice that temperature at 4 o'clock tomorrow, that's going to be colder than it will be tomorrow morning when you wake up. For the Wasatch Front, we're going to see those highs tomorrow early in the day for St. George. You'll likely see high temperatures in the afternoon, although it is not going to be that warm tomorrow. It's also going to be gusty here across the state, looking at Friday morning, especially across southern Utah. That's where we're going to see our strongest wind gusts tomorrow. Areas of blowing dust a possibility, and as we look statewide again tomorrow, 4 p.m., our wind is still gusting 30 to 40 miles per hour for many locations. And even into Saturday, we'll see some breezy conditions at times here across the state. Temps tomorrow afternoon looking at 4 o'clock. 40s and low 50s here across Utah tomorrow. Temperatures for St. George 50s, 60s return for Saturday and Sunday. Areas of blowing dust possibly tomorrow. 80s midweek next week. For the Wasatch Front, we have 40s this weekend, and then temperatures will be rebounding next week. We'll talk about how much snow and rain we could see out of this storm coming up in the full forecast. We'll be right back.
Something special hidden in the walls of this home led to a special homecoming here in Springville. I'm Fox 13 News reporter Emily Tenser. It's been around 80 years since one 100-year-old woman walked through these doors.
All right, you get to be my guide.
It's a surreal experience for anyone returning to your childhood home.
The shelf's still here.
But it's a real gift for 100-year-old Dorothy Switzer, who was last here in the 40s.
This is all okay. Totally different.
The Springville home on Main Street is being transformed into a cafe and the Jolly Circle bike shop.
I can't imagine what Mom and Dad would think about having a rack of bicycles in their bedroom.
Her father was the one to remodel it in the 30s.
You could look the length of the front door and see the door to the bathroom. Mother didn't like that arrangement.
And Stephen Park is the man now changing things around.
So this, you've moved the door.
Yep, we changed it back to how it was.
Mom would never allow it.
During Park's renovations to this space, a note that was in the walls was found in the rubble.
It just reminded me like when I was a kid and my dad would build things, and like I remember marking on like 2x4s, you know, while he's building and thinking, oh, what if someone sees this in the future?
Turns out the letter was from Dorothy's older brother, Bob.
He got me out of trouble time and again.
Here's a picture of the happy siblings. Sergeant Robert Barron carried this photograph with him all the way to Italy, where he died at 23 in World War II.
He was leading a group of men up the side of the mountain to clear out a machine gun nest.
This note is like hearing from him all over again.
Bob's name, Robert Von Barron, moved in house when 9 months old in fall of 1922. Placed note here September 6, 1932.
Looking at the handwriting, showing the home to her grandchildren, and flipping through photo books with her daughter.
So that's what it looked like, that corner, when we lived here.
In a way, makes it feel as though no time has passed.
Brings back a lot of memories.
As for the bike store and the coffee shop, they're expected to open May 1st. Reporting in Springville, Emily Tenser, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Did you hear that? That is 11-year-old Bronx Sandoval of Taylorsville. In fact, he is the touring drummer for Fix. Guess who his favorite drummer is? That's right, Rook from Machine Gun Kelly. We got to sit down with him in his drum lair in the basement.
Coming up next on Fox 13.
He's been playing the drums since he was 4, and now at the ripe old age of 11, he's living the dream. Bronx Sandoval of Taylorsville is in a lot of ways your typical 5th grader. It's just that many of his friends are way older than him.
Y'all sing this with me, all right?
He's touring with the artist Fix.
My name is Bronx Roy Sandoval. And I play drums.
How long have you been playing?
Almost 7 years, so almost my whole career, basically.
This 11-year-old spends 3, 4, sometimes 5 hours a day down here in the basement. And he's gotten good. We had him listen one time to a song he's never heard before. And then play it back for us.
So when I was like 4 years old, I used to watch like Travis Barker YouTube videos and stuff, and I played pots and pans with chopsticks, and then my dad got me my first drum set.
What's the best part about being a drummer, do you think?
Best part about being a drummer, probably playing in front of a bunch of people and just playing, touring.
In fact, how he got hooked up with Fix was when the artist played Salt Lake City, he had a meet and greet.
I played outside with him. Like, there's like a little shed thingy where he just played outside and there's like a meet and greet and stuff. And then after, he asked me, he's like, you want to go on tour with me? So it's like, I'm like, can't say no to that. So yeah.
You know that most 11-year-old drummers aren't touring.
Yeah. It's crazy, because I'm only 11. Usually when you tour, you're like 20 or 30, a little bit older. But
yeah.
It's crazy.
Bronx has his own Instagram channel, a drum sponsorship, and his own merchandise now. He does homeschool when he's on the road. What's your favorite subject?
Probably math. I like math. Because math is with drums too, so it's like I can learn a lot too with math.
He's performed with bands like Mod Sun and Meet Me at the Altar, but his big moment came 2 years ago.
All right, we're here in Salt Lake City. I'm here with Rook, and I'm here with my little homie Bronx.
With Machine Gun Kelly at the USANA Amphitheater. Can you tell his favorite drummer is Rook from Machine Gun Kelly? Where does his musical talent come from, do you think?
Honestly, I have no idea because it's nobody in our family.
Really?
Yeah, he just learned it all by himself.
Bronx's dad, Josh, is his manager and now tours with him.
I go with him, sell merch, drum tech for him, set everything up, haul his drums. I mean, his hardware case is probably 200 pounds alone, so it's a whole nother person.
What would you say, as his dad, what would you say is the key to his success at 11 years old?
Probably his determination. He told me one day he wanted to be the best drummer in the world, and I don't doubt it. And I have to like get him to go outside and do other things and like, you know, get him away from the drums.
That's my point.
But for the most part, he lives in his drum room and just eats and drinks and sleeps, everything down here. He definitely doesn't hit like a kid. He hits like an adult.
How do you account for that?
I don't know where his power comes from, but it's just, it's unreal. I don't know.
Yeah, he's incredible. His dad tells me that Bronx hits those cymbals so hard that sometimes he cracks them.
Wow.
And they have to replace them. And those are good heavy cymbals too.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to see Bronx Sandoval and of course Fix in concert, the tour comes to Salt Lake on June 11th at the Depot. And in the meantime, they're going to be all over the country from the end of April to the end of October.
That is a kid that I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of in the coming years.
I tell you what, he is something else.
Yes,
you know,
wow.
Really.
Taylorsville made.
Yeah, no kidding. And it's so fun to see him talk about living the dream at 11. You know,
in his career.
Yeah,
like,
in his whole career since he was 4. So anyway, Bronx and Josh's dad, thanks for letting us get to know you a little bit and show off your talent.
That kid is going places, that's for sure.
Is. Well, coming up, we're going to show you how the state is working to get rid of an invasive species in the Great Salt Lake wetlands. And a man was hit and killed on I-15 this morning while changing a tire. He was wearing a reflective vest. What UHP has learned about the crash and the advice from driving school instructors.
What does humility have to do with winning? RSL head coach Pablo Mastroeni will tell us why his team needs to be humble this week.
A man was changing a tire on the side of the highway early this morning when he was hit and killed. I'm Jenna Bree with Fox 13 News. Officials tell us how the accident happened and how you can avoid putting your safety at risk while trying to get back on the road.
We don't want anybody to have a reason to stop on the interstate.
Sergeant Andrew Battenfield says a Utah County man in his early 30s was changing his tire on the northbound right shoulder around 6:30 a.m.
He put on his hazard lights. He put on a reflective vest.
The accident is under investigation, but UHP troopers know the man was changing the rear driver's side tire.
I'm not sure where the individual was when he was actually struck. There was no damage to the vehicle the tire was being changed, so speculation is that he was in the roadway.
Last year, Utah passed a law requiring drivers to move over and change lanes if there's a car on the shoulder with its hazard lights on. But despite this new regulation, local driving instructors still teach students you can't trust that all drivers will give you space.
There are so many people that are on their phones or they're distracted, they're not really paying attention. So if you're on the side of the road, that's the hardest thing. You don't really want to be in that situation.
Mark Pierce says he discourages drivers to fix a flat tire on the freeway and tells students to slow down and try to make it to the nearest exit.
Put your emergency signals on. If you are going to fix this flat tire, then maybe you need to see if you have a flare or something that you could put in the back, about approximately maybe 100 feet back, so the other drivers know that there is something going on.
In Midvale, Jenna Bree, Fox 13 News, Utah.
If you do find yourself needing to change a tire on the side of the highway, UHP says you can call 911 and a trooper will come and help you. Fox 13 News is driven to change to make Utah roads safer. If you see hazards or think you have a solution to any of these issues, send an email to news@fox13now.com.
Well, today was our warmest day so far this year, 73 degrees, but tomorrow a cold front arrives. How much rain and snow we could see this weekend.
Coming up in sports, we'll tell you what the Larry H. Miller Company had to say about Oakland's move to Sacramento, and a local golfer had a great day on the PGA Tour. The highlights are on the way.
The state is trying to tackle an invasive plant impacting Utah waterways.
It chokes out all the native plants that normally would be found at Great Salt Lake wetlands.
I'm Ben Winslow at Ogden Bay. Work is being done to remove the invasive species Phragmites, and state officials say they are making good progress. Fires were set in the wetlands of Ogden Bay to try to get rid of Phragmites.
It's an ongoing battle.
The invasive grass can grow to 10 feet high. It was first introduced in North America in the 1800s. The Great Floods of 1983 likely put it in the Great Salt Lake wetlands.
They most likely got here as escaped from people's yards.
Phragmites is a statewide problem, but one environmental organization says it's particularly harmful to the Great Salt Lake.
You can basically think that for every acre of Phragmites is an acre that is lost as bird habitat. So these plants form these really thick monocultures, which means just really dense thickets. So think of like a cornfield, and the birds basically can't probe around and find food and seeds in the mud.
Utah's Division of Forestry, Fire and State Lands says to get rid of Phragmites, they treat it with herbicide and then burn it. If they don't get it, Phragmites can grow back even worse than before.
Well, Phragmites is an invasive species, and they are very big water consumers, and so by eradicating the wetlands of Phragmites, we allow the natural plants that are native to this area to really kind of take root and kind of take back the wetlands, as well as it allow more water to infiltrate those wetlands and hopefully make its way all the way to the Great Salt Lake.
But the state says it's making good progress in getting rid of Phragmites.
Over 26,000 acres of wetlands around the Great Salt Lake have been treated for Phragmites over the last 10 years.
The Sageland Collaborative says it's pleased with state efforts to get rid of the invasive plant.
I feel like this is one of the most important places that we can really reclaim a lot of habitat for birds, shorebirds, and waterfowl in Great Salt Lake wetlands.
Something to be aware of, you can expect to see more prescribed burns around wetlands in the weeks to come. At Ogden Bay, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
I'm meteorologist Allison Krogan with Utah's Weather Authority. I'll have your full forecast in just a moment, but first we've got a cold front that's coming in that could impact our just now budding cherry blossoms at the Capitol. Meteorologist Chris Nunley went there today to check them out.
The cherry trees are nearing peak bloom, responding to the warm temperatures we've seen so far this week. With mild overnight lows in the 40s and 50s and high temperatures soaring into the 70s, the blossoms have bloomed and we're now close to achieving peak bloom on the Utah Capitol grounds. Typically, once peak bloom arrives, with ideal weather conditions, the peak bloom can last around 7 to 10 days. The ideal weather conditions include mild afternoon temperatures, sunny skies, light winds, and overnight lows staying in the mid-40s. Unfortunately, the latter two are coming to an end. Gusty winds up to 40 miles per hour possible over the next few hours, and more importantly, temperatures nearing freezing over the weekend.
If temperatures do touch freezing over the weekend, that means the peak bloom could be cut short, with the flowers dying and falling to the ground.
Friday night through Monday night, temperatures will approach the freezing mark, with the coldest temperatures forecast Sunday night.
Head out to the Capitol grounds Friday to view the beautiful shades of pink and white.
All right, well, we're going to have some changes this weekend, as Chris just mentioned. A lot of wind today and into tomorrow as our cold front moves through tomorrow, but our best chance for accumulating maybe even slushy roads, snowfall down to the valley floors could be on Saturday as we hit more of a northwest flow into early Sunday also. And then early next week, we could have a follow-up system that it's a cutoff low that brushes by into Arizona early next week. The reason I want to mention this is this could bring some additional cloud cover to Utah early next week. And Monday is that total solar eclipse. We're not in the path of totality here in Utah. We'll get a partial solar eclipse on Monday at lunchtime, but certainly something that I think a lot of people are going to want to see, hopefully mostly clear sky for. Now, as we look at our precipitation chances here in the Salt Lake Valley tomorrow, we're going to start seeing those going up tomorrow midday throughout the afternoon. As our area of high pressure shifts to the east, our next storm moves in from the west. Out ahead of that, we do have a lot of snow right now through central and northern Nevada. And for us here tonight and into tomorrow morning, we're going to see our temperatures really not that bad when you wake up tomorrow, 40 to about 50 degrees here across the state for your Friday morning. And then we're going to see clearing clouds tonight, increasing clouds throughout the day tomorrow, with chances for rain and snow scattered here across the state. But best chance for that will be as the front moves through midday tomorrow. And then we'll see that northwest flow Saturday, and we could see some additional northwest flow bringing us our best chances for maybe winter travel impacts for the highest terrain, and perhaps the roads could slush up for a little bit here in the valleys. For Ogden, your chance of precipitation widespread tomorrow, by Friday night scattered. Widespread Saturday night into Sunday, widely scattered. Chance of precipitation for Provo, scattered Friday night, Saturday. By Saturday night into Sunday, widely scattered isolated chances, isolated on Monday also. Chance of precipitation for St. George, pretty low, but blowing dust in the forecast for tomorrow with isolated showers. As far as how much valley precipitation we could see here in Salt Lake City, now through Saturday night, so over the next 48 hours, we're looking at less than half of an inch of precipitation for the most part, and some of this could come in the form of a wintry mix at times. If we see any accumulating snowfall here in the valleys, we're expecting that to be pretty minor, especially with how warm that it was today. That might have a hard time sticking to the grounds. As we look across southern Utah, we're going to see the chance for snow northern Washington County further north. For our highest terrain, we're looking at about 5 to 10 plus inches. And for the top of the Cottonwood Canyons, we could get 8 to 16 inches of snow, maybe even 20 inches if that northwest flow really picks up with some lake enhancement heading into Saturday. St. George, 56 tomorrow, 60s this weekend, back close to 80 to 85 middle of next week. For Salt Lake, 40s this weekend. And then we're also warming up with sunshine returning. Beautiful spring weather next week.
Major League Baseball will not be played in Utah next year, despite a strong push by the Larry H. Miller Company to make the new stadium they're building in South Jordan the temporary home of the Oakland Athletics. The A's announced they're moving to Sacramento for the next 3 seasons before moving to their permanent home in Las Vegas in 2028. In a statement, the Larry H. Miller Company said from the beginning there were economic reasons tied to an existing television contract that favored the Athletics staying in Northern California. We wish the Athletics much success in their home state during this exciting time in their team's history. Our proven and ready ownership group and broad-based coalition is fully committed to bringing an MLB expansion team to the Power District on Salt Lake City's west side. We are grateful and encouraged that Utah was viewed as a potential host and solution for the Athletics, and we will continue to demonstrate that we are the ideal MLB expansion market. Meanwhile, we still have the Bees, who played They're playing their final season in Salt Lake City before moving to that stadium at daybreak next year. Tonight, Tacoma took the lead on this RBI single by Ryan Bliss in the 3rd inning. The Bees didn't score until the 7th on this sacrifice fly from Bryce Teodosio, but Tacoma held on to win it 7-4, their 2nd straight win over the Bees. Real Salt Lake will go after their 3rd win in a row this Saturday when they play at Minnesota. RSL won at Vancouver and at home against St. Louis, scoring 5 goals during those 2 matches. Coach Pablo Mastroeni was asked what it takes to string together multiple wins.
I think it's humility. I think it's humility, and I think in today's day and age, it's really difficult with social media and everyone's singing everyone's praises after a good performance. And now it's 2 good performances in a row, and that's something that we've spoken about in the last couple of weeks. Is we haven't done anything until we're raising a trophy. And so for us, regardless of what the people on the outside are saying, good or bad, it's really important to stay humble and do the work Monday through Friday, because that's the place where you're going to make your gains.
With the Masters next week, Tony Finau not playing on the PGA Tour this week, but 3 other locals are on the Texas Open. This is Peter Quest, birdie at 7. The former BYU Cougar Monday qualified. He is tied for 8th at 3 under par after the 1st round. Patrick Fishburne here from Ogden got to 3 under par after his first 9 holes, but he finished 2 over par. And Zach Blair from Salt Lake City is 6 over par heading into the 2nd round tomorrow.
You don't always hear the word humility from a winning coach.
A professional athlete.
Yeah, that's odd to hear that.
Yeah, you got to stay humble and put in the work during the week, and the results will come. Yeah, really good. Good advice.
Yeah, good things happen when you work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here we are. Stay humble.
Yeah,
we'll be right back. A hotel in Utah has made the list of best new hotels in the world this year. Ulum Moab is described as upscale glamping.
And not much of a hotel, right?
Yeah, right? You get a view across Canyonlands National Park. They're tents you were looking at them there. 400 square feet with a king-size bed and a rain shower. Now, before you go, though, note that the tents don't have any Wi-Fi. Allison.
You don't need Wi-Fi if you're going to be
beautiful.
there.
You don't. If you do, then you need a checkup from the neck up. The best hotels list comes from Afar magazine, whose staff looked at location, design, service, commitment to community, and sustainability. Here's one more thing we want to show you. Take a look at this. That is a hog on the lamb. One of 3 of them, actually. Not sure when this exactly happened, but the police officer finally tackled him after those 3 pigs had roamed a Grantsville neighborhood for 2 days. Took 4 or 5 officers to get all of them. Aren't sure who they belong to.
He must have played linebacker.
He must have.
Come on.
Or point guard. They're at an animal rescue now, where secure fencing will presumably prevent any escapes until the owners show up.
Do you know what that reminds me of?
What does it remind you of?
When it's a nice day and I'm trying to get my dog to come back inside. He's like,
no.
He just ignores me.
No. But what was your name again?
Yeah, exactly.
Quick Cast up next.